Watch today's episode to learn how Ari goes into anaphylactic shock to find his true calling in life. Today's episode is brought to you by MyGo site, where you can build funnels and website all from one location. Easy to use, drag and drop builder. Build your first funnel today. Fully customized checkout experience, 14-day free trial, no credit card needed. Welcome back, everybody, to today's episode of Clicks and Bricks. My name is Ken, and today I'm super excited to introduce you to Ari Gronich. How you doing, Gronich? How you doing? And we just went over that. I screwed it up instantly, so
it's all right.
I apologize. It's early in the week still, so we'll get moving forward. How you doing today, Ari?
I'm doing fantastic. How are you doing?
I'm good. Thank you for joining us today. We're very excited to have you on the show. Can you tell us a little bit about you, about your history and your business?
Yeah, so my company's called Achieve Health USA, but I've been a sports and injury rehabilitation therapist, functional medicine consultant for about 27 years, clinical hypnotherapist, and pretty much anything that's been in the industry I've done. And so how I started is kind of the interesting part, I guess. I was 18. My parents had Amway growing up, so I knew things about herbology and aromatherapy. I was a gymnast, martial artist growing up, so I was going to chiropractor since I was 5, learning about joint manipulation and healing and control of body parts. And so I was like 5 years old when I gave somebody my first massage for money. I was at a parent's party, and I think
you didn't get in trouble?
I think I got $2 for it, and then I started walking around the room saying $2 for a massage because, if one did it, then more would, and that was better than an allowance back then, which, might have been a quarter. I was back in the days when gum was still a nickel. No,
right.
It was 3 nickels really back then, but
yeah.
I like to age myself, but the idea was that I was in this industry not on purpose, but because at 18 I went whitewater rafting, and I got heat stroke and sunstroke, and I was taking a homeopathic remedy, which was snake venom, and I was drinking Mountain Dew, and I didn't know you couldn't do caffeine with the homeopathic remedy. So all this stuff kind of combined, and I ended up in anaphylactic shock, and by the time I got to the hospital, I was dead. So I was already gone when I arrived at the hospital. By the time they brought me back, it was about 26 minutes later. And about 3 days later, I woke up in the hospital, and I sat up and I said, I think I need to be a healer. And that was kind of how I got into the business specifically. From there, just choosing the school, I sent 28 letters out, and I only responded to one of the responses, and that's where I went. And that school ended up, the owner didn't really know how to run a school very well, but she had been a therapist for 40 years and knew everybody in the industry. So she knew all of the experts that created the industry, and she would fly them out. And one by one, we would do intensives with people like Ida Rolf, or we did intensives of chiropractic training with instructors from Palmer and Logan. We did intensives of temple lomi lomi and kinesiology. Our anatomy instructor was at OHSU. And so we got to do cadaver labs and stuff like that. Nobody would get to do this stuff. So it just kind of so happened, right? And then about 3 months into me going to school, the teacher wanted me to run the clinic. And our clinic didn't have enough clients. And our school backed up to the campuses of Intel, Nike, and Tektronix in Beaverton, Oregon. And so I decided, let's bring our clinic to them. And I guess starting 3 of the first corporate wellness programs in the country.
With pretty big name companies.
I didn't know what I was doing. It wasn't it wasn't on purpose, right? It was, here's the thing that we need to do. We need to fill this role.
Right.
By my 6th month in school, we went to an event. And it was a health fair at the Coliseum, and I ended up working on Richard Simmons, Victoria Jackson, and a couple of pro ball players. And the pro ball players ended up taking me to the game that night. And I ended up with that team for a year as an intern. And so that was how the performance therapist was born. I was designed to cause people to perform at higher levels. My brain looks at things a little bit weird and different than most. So I may not see, if you're holding up 2 fingers, I may not see your 2 fingers, but I see the space in between them and what's missing, right? If you're asking questions, I don't hear what you're saying. I always hear what you're not saying. It's kind of an interesting way to look at life, but if you take that, extrapolate it, like to say a pandemic, right? What was not being said? That was more important to me than anything else, is what was not being said. And the thing that wasn't being said is get healthy. Do things to get your body healthy right now. Like, we need a national running club. We need a national walk for your life club. We need to clean up the pesticides out of the food that's causing cancer and causing our bodies to hold on to toxins and diabetes, give us diabetes. We need to get healthy. That's what wasn't being said.
Right.
And so, I look at things differently, and I just, that's how my business was created.
Right. So you're not the first person I've heard talk about, being healthy and those kinds of things, specifically around the pandemic, right? And I don't like to talk about politics because I'm not a politician by any means, but I don't think this is necessarily politics, right? Do you think that the way COVID was introduced into our society and the way it was kind of handled, do you think we'll see more holistic approaches to health and wellness as we move forward over the next 10 or 20 years? Because the last 10 or 20 years has been, for lack of better words, shit, right? I mean, we've been eating chicken nuggets and French fries. We replace animal fat with vegetable oil and say it's healthy, right? So, but we're still deep frying everything that we do. I feel like, and I don't know if it's the whole world or just a segment of it or just the segment of the world that I'm looking at, is starting to really take this more individual approach to their health, right? Not necessarily just, whatever's in the drive-through is good for me.
Well, I think in some cases, yes, and in some cases, the exact opposite. A lot of people have decided that they don't want to eat healthy at all because who knows if they're going to live, so might as well do what they're going to do. If you looked at the grocery stores after the pandemic was introduced, right? What was missing from the shelves? The white breads, the candy, the liquor, the meat. Like, I could go to this store and all the meat would be gone except for the organic grass-fed. Like, there was toilet paper gone and bread gone, but like, you don't know that you could go take a shower after you go to the bathroom if you're really out of toilet paper. Like, there is ways to deal with that. Like there's such a cognitive dissonance that is going on, and common sense is no longer common, and that's being fed and purposefully fed in the world in general. And I'm not going to go into who or why or what or conspiracy theories because I don't believe in conspiracy theories. Here's what I believe in. There's an optimum way to do things and there's a suboptimum way to do things. There's always a place in which you can optimize more. So I look at things like, what is it that I'm doing and how can I be more optimized? What can I do today to make tomorrow better? right? So I don't look at it the same way that people do. I'm not trying to run from something or run to something. I'm just saying, if I'm going to do this, if I'm going to put effort into this, right? What am I going to do that's going to cause a result? Because I don't want to put effort into something that's going to get no result. And that's the difference between the medical system as it is and as it should be, right? So there's one word that can change the entire system, and that's the incentive. That's the word. And we switch that incentive from treatments to results.
Right.
Okay? So right now, the incentive is to do more treatments. The more treatments I do, the more money I make. If I'm a therapist, a chiropractor, a doctor, it doesn't matter what I am, a surgeon, the more I do, the more money I make.
Right.
And so my job is to do more things.
Yes.
If we change the incentive to results, then the idea is, how can I get you better in as few steps as possible? Right? What's the quickest way to you getting healthy? Because if I get you to quit smoking and I get 100 other people to quit smoking and I get a bonus for that, I want the bonus to be as quick as possible. So my end game, my whole end game, is designed specifically to get you healthy.
Correct.
Right now, that's not the end game. And so
not for a doctor, not for our medical system, right?
Yeah, not for our medical system at all.
And that's a hard thing to change, right? It's a hard thing to change in socialism or capitalism, either way, right? It's
all
incentivizing
right.
on
all that is, though, but all that is an argument of who's paying. That's not an argument of what we're doing. And the reason why...
Right, but it's also an argument who's getting, right? It's not just who's paying, it's who's getting the money at the end of the day, too.
Who's paying the bill is what I'm saying. Who's paying the bill, right? But the thing is like, here's the deal. If you have an incentive system that is about results, then you almost completely cut out all incentive for fraud. Now, what percentage of medicine right now is fraudulent? Well, one of the things that the pandemic has done is it's given us an ability to see what it looks like when we don't do medical interventions. Because so many medical interventions were not done in the last year and a half.
All electives were canceled for a long time.
Right. All of that has been right. So medical interventions have not been done. We get to see how much the death toll is. And guess what the death toll is? The death toll is actually a lot less. According to mortuaries and funeral homes, the death toll is actually a lot less than in previous years.
Right.
Why? Well, one theory is that there's less medical interventions. And so, that's a good thing and a bad thing, because we need some of those.
Because we're talking about these numbers and more or less, and I know we're not talking about statistics necessarily or really diving deep, but one book that I think that everybody should read, if you're thinking about these things either on a micro or a macro level, you should definitely get the book, and I'm not affiliated with it at all. It's a really old book. It's How to Lie with Statistics. And it's a great book. It's really old, but you should really read it because it gives you an idea. When people say words like average, there's really like 4 different definitions of average, and they can really manipulate the hell out of what it sounds like they're saying, right? So when you hear words like, less than, really question them, right? So I'm going to question you, Ari. You say it was less. Was it a reduced run rate, or was there actually a lower number of deaths in the country than there was the year before?
Lower number of deaths in the country
as a whole.
So the funeral homes and the mortuaries are less crowded than they have been.
Right. So unless people are hiding bodies, there's less death.
Right, there's less death.
Right. Which is amazing. And I mean, if you want to get healthy, you go to the gym. If you want to get sick, you go to the hospital. Has been always what my what the information or the advice that I've been given.
Right.
So, and I don't find it to be untrue.
Right. The thing that I always say is, if you look at life in a logical pattern, logical way, right? You look at like optimize, sub-optimize. So what is the optimum way to avoid disease, right? So disease costs a lot of money. It costs a lot of money, not just in cash for treating the disease, but in productivity, in that person's usefulness over the time, because, you know, if you're medically out of whack, then you're not going to be as productive. So maybe for a company, out of an 8-hour day, 2-3 hours is production,
right,
and the rest is not. And so you look at things like there's so much extraneous cost, the spider web of costs that move out, that spider web out, the ripples, you know, like of costs. That is where the issue comes in. So I don't look at it like who's paying the bill. Like, is it insurance companies? Is it not? Is it the government? Is it not? Is it, you know, socialist, or is it capitalism? I don't care. It doesn't matter. The idea is not to pay for medical care, because medical care should be intervention only, not treatment plan. So medical care, if it's done in emergency only, Western medicine is freaking brilliant at taking care of emergency medicine, dealing with trauma, dealing with a gunshot wound, a slice, a heart attack, things like that, emergency stuff. They absolutely are in their wheelhouse. That is the scope of practice they should hang out in. They have been absolutely not effective. And not only not effective, but in some cases, if you look at numbers, you could say they have been a causative factor in a lot of chronic disease. Why? Because they, first of all, haven't done anything to cure. They only do something to treat. Right. Second, the medicines and pharmaceuticals cause side effects that then cause other issues, right? So this is nothing that's under dispute. So it's just not optimized. It's just not effectively optimized. Our health has gotten worse as technology has gotten better. Why? There's a cognitive dissonance between those two places. And the only thing that I can see that can change it is that incentive.
Yeah, I don't disagree with you on most of your topics there at all. I think, like, for sure, I'm a firm believer that the American medical system has caused more drug addiction than any other system on the planet, right? And it's really, on the surface, it looks like they have our best interest at heart, but it's not really, right? It's the pocketbooks at the end of the day. And as much as I love capitalism, I'm not sure that our current system, it needs some checks and balances. I'm not really sure about where we should go with it. But keeping the show moving forward, you've obviously had some adversity in life. Do you have a specific tip or trick, mindset or physical trick, either way, doesn't matter, that you use to help you overcome adversity when you feel like it's time to throw in the towel? Like, what do you lean on? What do you dig into to really help you come out of that and get back to a place of where you can actually strive?
So I'm going to answer that in an odd way. Somebody asked me one time.
I wouldn't expect anything less, Ari.
Somebody asked me once on a call, what do I tell people if they've fallen off the wagon? And I said to them, there is no wagon. The wagon does not exist. You're born and you are alive. That means that you're on whatever that journey is. Right. You haven't fallen off anywhere. So I tell people to stop thinking and treating themselves like they're quitters or given up or they're anything. If you're alive, you're not done.
Right.
And I want you to hear that, audience. If you're alive, you're not done. There's still room to grow, still room to optimize more.
Absolutely.
And so that's the first thing is just changing your mindset. If you're alive, you're not done. So So then the next question is, well, then what's the next best thing? What's the next best step? Let me get out of the future planning that has gotten me overwhelmed and go to what is the next best thing for me to do? And then wait for an answer. You know, you don't have to be the one having all the answers, right?
Right.
You can think, and then like I like to take a shower and sit in the shower and have the water pour over me, and I kind of have it as a meditation. It's like washing away all the crap and then filling me with the new ideas, right? Once I wash everything away, I can be filled with new. And so I do that in the morning. I'll ask myself the question, what's my next best step? And then I'll go take a shower and I'll wait for the answer. And so that's one way. That's my way. It could be different for others, but it's a way that I do that is I ask myself lots of questions all the time.
Right.
And the question isn't why me? Because that's a question that leads you down a rabbit hole of problems. So I ask questions that lead to solving problems versus creating them. And so the question, like, what's my next best step, is an open-ended question. It has an answer to it that kind of can grow with you, right? Versus something that ends with, you're a schmuck, or you're a failure, or you're a quitter. Why me? Well, why me? Because you're this bad thing. Well, like what? There's no point in having that be your question, because it's, unless you like treating yourself badly.
Which I think some people do because they don't know any different, right? This is just what they were taught how to do.
Right.
I think I love your tip there, asking yourself a question. I think the importance where people really miss the boat here is the stopping and waiting for the answer. Freeing your mind, clearing your mind. You use the shower, I use breath. Sometimes I use the shower. Actually, I don't even think I've recognized the fact that I use the shower until you said it. But I do that too. Sometimes I'll just sit in the shower, and I've had my fair share of surgery, so I do that just because the doctor tells me to stand and let that hot water run over my wounds. But so yeah, I like that. I think where people are missing the boat there is that ask yourself questions and then stop. Don't try to answer it yourself. The answer's out there. It will come to you, right? And clearing your mind is that important part.
Yeah. Once you ask the question, your mind does this thing. It calculates an answer and a response without you thinking about it. So your mind has a mind of its own. And once you ask it a question, it will go about the answering, right?
Right.
That's
well,
its job.
I don't know a lot about this stuff, but I think if you ask yourself the question, you answer it really quickly, that's your conscious brain. You really want an answer from your subconscious brain, right?
Which is why you let it percolate.
Right. So if you got a question, if you got an answer really fast, that's not the right answer. You got to clear your mind and let that answer come to you.
Which is
probably not the right answer.
Yeah, that's why I say, ask yourself, what's the next best step, and then let yourself wait for that answer, because you don't know what it is in your mind. That's why I say your mind has a mind of its own. Let the mind of its own do its thing, because it's way smarter than the one you're trying to control.
Right. What I love about that question is I tell people all the time, get out of autopilot, right? That if you're in your car and you're driving to work and you don't remember your drive, you're on these, you're doing these things and you don't remember doing them, you just kind of appear at this next state, you're living in your conscious mind. Your subconscious is just completely checked out. You're not doing what's best for you. You're just doing your instant gratifying stuff, right? So, but that question makes you stop and really kind of live in the moment, right? It doesn't let you, that question, if you were to ask it and truly let your mind clear and answer it, it doesn't let you be on autopilot.
Right. It brings you exactly to present moment.
Right. Which is huge, right? Anytime you start studying mindfulness, being in the present moment is what it's all about.
That's what breath does as well. So you were talking about one of your techniques is breathing. That's a good technique because each breath in and out happens in a moment, and it can't help it happen in the future. Like you can't say, like, think about it. I'm going to breathe in 20 seconds. I'm going to breathe, and then it's going to be a good one. It's going to be a deep one. Like, you're not planning for your breath in the future. You're not, if you're holding, you're anxious about the past typically. Like, so,
right.
In Chinese medicine, lungs have to do with the joy of life, inspiration and expiration, right? So
right.
You're inspired when you breathe in, and you're expiring, you're breathing out all the right? So you have this breath of life, this joy in your lungs. People who get lung cancer, typically the joy of their life has gone out. Or if they have asthma, it's like sporadic tensing of that joy. So it's an interesting thing, Oriental medicine.
Absolutely.
Explains that. But for the point of what you were saying, breathing is a good technique to get into the present moment, which means that you get out of that fight or flight response. So the idea is we want to react, or we want to respond to things instead of react to things. And so if we're not taking that extra minute to wait for the answer, we're reacting to whatever comes up. And the first things that usually come up, if you notice in your mind, is usually the negative stuff, the stuff that I have to say thank you for sharing next. Thank you for sharing that next in my own mind. Because the first things that come up are all the reasons why not.
Yes. And it takes a while to train yourself not to. There's two things that my wife does to me, and they're great things. She won't let me go to work unless I've meditated. She won't let me come home unless I've gone to the gym, right? So I can't leave the house unless I've done my meditation, and I'm not allowed to come home unless I've gone to the gym. So those are two things that my wife does for me that keeps me accountable, keeps me mindful, keeps me in the present day, every single day. Because she didn't make me do these to begin with. I started doing them on my own. Now she's like, you're such a better person with this in your life. This is what you have to do, right? You have to do these things because that's how important they are.
That takes you to the next tip and trick, though, right? Is accountability partner, somebody who's actually going to make you accountable or help you be accountable for your own word to yourself.
Absolutely, yes.
So in general, in business, in life, and everything, right? A lot of businesses fail because people are doing things alone. They don't ask for help. They overwhelm and stress themselves, and then they get sick, and then they lose their business.
Yes,
right?
It happens all the time. Every single day, business owners aren't taking care of themselves, and they think that they're doing the best for themselves and their family and their employees by doing the 120-hour work weeks. I'm okay with an 80-hour week. That's just being a grown-up. But the 120-hour weeks, man, those are tough for anybody, right? Even the most crazy people, I think. So, and they think they're doing the best, but they're really destroying everything, right? They're wearing their body down, and they're gonna inevitably just leave it out on an empty wire, right? They're gonna run out of themselves, and the whole thing's just gonna fall off a cliff. And when that happens, it's not good for anybody, right? It's bad across the board. So
it's bad across the board for your own sanity, your own health. 49, like statistically speaking, this was years, like I think 2010, 2009, but it was 49% of all businesses failed due to health issues. 49%. That makes it the number one cause of failing businesses.
Right. And I know that I've had a couple almost fail because of health, right? Now, I was lucky enough and fortunate enough to have a great team behind me and, get nursed back into health and keep them companies going, but it was close.
That's the next thing. That's what I'm saying is that next thing that you had, the people to be at your back. So when I got in a car accident in January, right? I got in a car accident in January. I have to have 4, maybe 5 surgeries. I also knocked my head into the airbag and had a TBI. And so I don't think as quickly, as fast as I usually do. I'm not as energetic as normal, right? But I had a team of 4 VAs that were keeping my business running while I couldn't.
Right.
It's
important.
And that was how the business survived, is because I trusted other people to do their thing and their genius.
Right. So now you're through adversity, right? And you've got the wheels back on the bus, right? But it's in neutral. How do you get it in drive? How do you get the gas back on it, right? How do you then go from a moment of a mindset of, because when you're in a mindset of staying alive, you're almost in a mindset of lack, right? And it's a hard place to get out of. So whenever you finally come to the realization that, okay, I have everything that I need, everybody's being fed, all my employees are getting, their paychecks on time. We can even do direct deposit now, right? These are really cool things. When you get to that point inside your business, how do you prevent from going in cruise control and really just pouring fuel on the fire and blowing that up and thrive? Do you have a tip or trick to help people get in the right mindset for that part of their journey? Because that's where shit gets really fun, right?
Yeah, so, I tell people, if you're going to be an entrepreneur, then buckle up. Buckle up, buttercup, because it's a bumpy ride, and it's not going to be easy. It's not going to be 100% fun all the time. You're going to have adversity. It's the best personal development you'll ever do in your entire life is running and owning a business. And so it's not for the faint of heart. And so that's one thing is, you've got to prepare yourself for the task ahead. And so if you're looking at starting a business or becoming an owner of a business, then you've got to prepare. That means prepare yourself for the task at hand, which means you got to strengthen your mental skills, but also your emotional skills, your ability to withstand people maybe saying negative things about you, because if you're going to go out into the public, you're going to hear a lot of negativity.
Oh no, the world's a kind place, isn't it?
Right, that's specifically towards you, but it's just hard, and you don't know everything. That's the other thing I want to tell people is like, I always thought I had to do everything. I had to be every piece of my business, and so I spent the first 20 years trying to be every single thing for my business. And that meant that I could only grow to so far. I could only do so much. So you got to figure out who you want to be when you grow up and what your lifestyle is. So I always ask people who come to me with that question, like, how do you want to live? What's the lifestyle that you want to experience for yourself? Okay, now from there, what is the thing that you're most passionate about that gets you up, gets you riled, gets you angry, gets you, what's the thing that gets you and your emotions engaged? Good. Now we got those two things. So we're going to pair the lifestyle that you want to live with the thing that you're most passionate about. Because I don't believe in the 40-hour work week, the 60-hour work week, or the work week at all. Life is life. Your work is part of your life. I don't think that they're separate things. Whether you go to a job or have a business, it's part of your life. It's all your life. And it's all a choice. Do I want to live my life doing this, or do I want to live my life doing that? So once you get that passion, and once you get that purpose, and once you get the lifestyle you want to live, now you could build a business around it. You could say, I need to make this much money, and you could reverse engineer everything that you want to experience. The idea is to feel what you want to experience before you're experiencing it. This is the hardest thing for most people.
It is a challenge, yes.
It's the thing. So Jim Rohn, says you wouldn't build a hotel until it was done, would you? If you saw somebody just putting a bunch of bricks up and you came and asked them, what are you building? I don't know what I'm building. Well, it's probably going to not be anything, that's going to hold guests, things, right? You got to have a blueprint. You got to have engineering, drafting. It's got to be done. You've got to be able to see it before you create it. And so that's the thing that most entrepreneurs, I think, don't necessarily do is they don't create a lifestyle and a business around the lifestyle. They
can't see it, but I've got here. I read every single day from the very first chapter of Think and Grow Rich. Desire is the starting point of all accomplishment, right? And that's, if you don't think it, it can't happen, right? So the thought is where everything starts, and what you're talking about, it starts to get into manifestation and other things like that, but it's not magic. It
starts in the thought, I think I want something, right?
Right.
But then it goes to the question, well, why? And
Yes.
then like the next question, why is that? Well, why? You ask 7 layers deep of why, and you
Right.
get to something more like, because I want to have that experience.
Right.
Why? Not because I of what I don't want, not because of what, it's because I think it would be cool to put a hotel right there. And I think it'd be cool if it looked like this. And I think it would be awesome if I was the one like going to it and enjoying the amenities of it. And when I go there and I'm feeling the amenities, I'm going to have the towel wrapped around me when I'm going down to get that massage, or I'm going to have the breeze of the ocean coming off when I'm sitting on my balcony. You know, like I'm going to feel it. This is what we did with pro athletes or amateur athletes, is before every competition, we have them run through in their minds exactly how is it going to feel. Have that feeling emotionally embedded in you,
Right.
in order for it to drive you. Motivation is crap. Motivation doesn't last. It's nothing. Everybody's motivated for something. Right? Mel
Right.
Robbins is famous for saying motivation is crap. What is worth it? You know, like I have a son, right? And if I'm consequencing my son for something, I have to ask myself, is the consequence bigger than the thing that he's doing to get in trouble, right? It's the same thing if there's an oil spill because we're dumping oil, or let's say we're dumping toxins offshore.
Right.
You're charging the company $100,000 for the violation, but they're making $12 million by doing the thing. There's no incentive to change what you're doing.
Absolutely not.
Right? So
Yep.
you need to have the incentive bigger than the obstacles in your way. And so
Absolutely.
like, for me, the obstacle has always been my own health. Right? I have a brain tumor. I have been, I've been injured all over the place. I that's been my obstacle. So how do I cover for my obstacle? What do I need to do? So I cover with people. I cover with breathing. I cover with treating myself well and taking self-care opportunities. I breathe deeply. I make sure I nap if I need to nap. I take good care of myself. And that's how I've had a business for 27 years, even though I've had all of these challenges.
Right. Fantastic. So that's all of our past and yesterday leading up to today. We've given our listeners some tips and tricks on things that they can do to overcome adversity and really thrive. But since this is Clicks and Bricks, we like to talk about business and technology. What technology do you think is either in the market today, maybe just beginning to flourish, that you think will be life-changing for us over the next 5, 10, or even 20 years?
Yeah, so AI is, as you know, making its headway. So a lot of copy is now being written by AI. A lot of marketing is now being attempted through AI. So
Yes.
here's my technology, right? I think that AI is going to get even bigger, even more. So the algorithms are going to get deeper and darker into your personality persona, the data. I mean, the amount of data that has been compiled in the last 10 years, just with Facebook and app data in general, is incredible. So what we're going to see is the marketing of people as individuals, kind of like we saw in Minority Report, where he would walk by and he would say, advertising would be specific to him. Hey, John, you're looking a little down today. Your heart rate is not as high as it was, or your blood pressure is too high. So let's,
Right.
You're going to have the AI basically telling you how to live. So if you're excited about this, then awesome. If if you're somebody who thinks that you want to have your own mind, you may not be as excited.
Right.
But, you know, I think that's where technology is going. It is going to that place where we saw in some of these movies like Back to the Future and so on. It's going to go to a place where all the advertising is directed for you. You're greeted by name everywhere you walk into. You go into a grocery store. You don't have cashiers. You don't have checkouts. You know, everything
Right.
is itemized by camera and sensor, and that's the technology that I'm expecting to see a lot more of. I'm not
Right.
sure if I'm excited about it or not. I think I'd be better excited if the nanotechnology was a little more advanced for medical reasons. Like if you could swallow a couple nanobite robots and have it
And clear out your arteries.
or have it, you know, clean. Like that would be to me something worth like jumping up over.
Absolutely. I love nanotech. It's coming along. I do some nanotech pain remedies here and there when I'm not currently in a competition mode by far, but when I'm in a competition mode, I use some nano strips. You put them on your skin. It does something. I'm not sure. I agree. AI is augmented reality and artificial intelligence. I think are going to be huge over the next 5, 10, 20 years. I'm with you. I don't know. I think you have to tread lightly. There's going to be early adopters that are going to be fully embraced. I really think it's going to create another division of classes for our world, right? Those that can get to the technology and understand it, and those that don't, which is already kind of happening. So we'll have our traditional class base like we have now, but I think we'll have another tech class base of people that can't afford we're already cyborgs for the most part, right?
What I'm worried about more than anything is the addiction. And the fact that we probably are going to look at a world in which we see a lot less of human flesh.
Absolutely. All right, we're getting little tight on time here. If somebody wanted to reach out to you and make contact, how would they do that? They would go to...
Yeah, you could go to createanewtomorrow.com or achievedhealthusa.com. But check out the podcast at Create a New Tomorrow. Is pretty much on any podcast system, including YouTube. So I always do videos of those episodes. I've had some great conversations with organizational psychologists, all the way to Olympic athletes. It's cool. But yeah, and then, you know, I'm on any platform, Ari Gronich. There's only one of me. So if you'd like to work with me, you know, I do a lot of consulting with corporations about their corporate wellness, their corporate culture, their productivity. And it works for small businesses as well as big businesses, because we all have the same issue. If you're working 8-hour day, about 3 of those hours are production and the other 5 is a waste of time. So what could you be doing to increase your production? And if you increase to 4 hours a day of production, could you then just take off and go do something else for the other? Because you've just increased your productivity by 25% by doing that.
Right.
And so you can go out and have more life, right?
Fantastic. Awesome. Thank you so much for joining us today, Ari. Do you have anything you'd like to leave the audience with?
We made this shit up. We could do better. If it's not optimized, there's a way that we can optimize it. So let's take the emotion out of it and just say, what can we do to do better? And then the last thing I'll leave you with is let's stop gathering to complain and start collaborating to succeed. There's enough solutions that are already there that we could solve a lot of these problems with very easy mobility. It just takes the mobility and the action. So if you're passionate about something, let's act on it. Let's talk. Let's have a conversation and see how we can change the world for the better.
Fantastic. Thank you so much for your time, Ari. And that's it for today's show, folks. We talked about a lot of scary stuff today. I'm not really sure what all the answers are, but I do know how we start to fix them, and that's get to work.